We've heard a lot of stories today. We've heard personal stories, personal experiences. And I certainly have my own. A lot of you have heard me talk about my family often and how my grandparents came to the United States from Greece, and they opened up their own business because they came here because it was the land of opportunity. And they landed in a funny named state called Connecticut because somebody they knew had come here. They came here because everyone was welcome to come here. You follow the rules, follow the laws, and you worked hard. And if you did all that, the world was your oyster. Not to mention oysters, a whole nother subject, but you could get a job, buy a home, raise a family, and maybe even own your own business. The American dream. That was what this country was. It was a land of opportunity. But here we are again, that time of the year where we do a budget. And I would argue it's the most important thing we do all year. This year we had 3 versions. Had the governor's version, we had the House Republican and Senate Republican version, and we had the House and Senate Democrat version. When we look back to June 2011, the last time we did this, we unfortunately see a similar scenario to what we're looking at now. We see a $3 billion deficit. We see a $3 billion tax increase. And we hear words that have reverberated in our ears for 4 years. Shared sacrifice. Shared sacrifice, very easy to define. We all have to sacrifice in a way. So we were told that we, citizens of the state of Connecticut, we are in a situation where we have no choice but to raise taxes. And not just raise taxes, but raise them in the highest amount that has ever been raised in the state of Connecticut's history. But for that, other people would share in that sacrifice. State employees would give back some. We were all paying extra taxes. There would be efficiencies. There would be consolidations, because that's what we were sharing. And for that shared sacrifice, we were going to get a better Connecticut. We were going to get a more fiscally solvent Connecticut, and we were going down the right road to fiscal prosperity and bring this state back to the Connecticut we know and love. Well, guess what? Here we are, June 3rd now, 2015, and what do we see? We see yet another $3 billion deficit. $3 billion. That wasn't supposed to happen 4 years ago because we were sharing in the sacrifice to fix this problem. But the interesting thing that happened this year is when we had the conversations about how we were going to fix our problem, there was 40%, over 40% of the interests of the state of Connecticut were not in the room talking about the solution. And what I mean by that is everybody on this side of the aisle. Republicans represent over 40% of the citizens of the state of Connecticut. But not one conversation was had, although we were told time after time after time after time, write your ideas down on paper. I'll get back to you. Not only did we write them down on paper, we wrote a full budget, fully vetted by the Office of Fiscal Analysis. And in that budget we had plenty of help for the citizens of Connecticut. We took people off the DDS wait list. We helped nonprofit providers. We gave back private provider taxes. We helped hospitals. We invested in transportation. We did pension relief. We helped everyone from top to bottom, particularly the middle class. Oddly enough, I know this is a surprise, none of that was discussed when this budget was put together. And I know the good chairman of the Finance Committee spoke very clearly about being respectful of others' opinions. He used those exact words. Well, I don't know how we define respectful of others' opinions, but when there is zero input from 40% of the citizens of Connecticut, I don't call that respect. Today, we're now facing a $1.5 billion tax increase. And that's across the board. I think one of my colleagues mentioned it's an equal opportunity tax increase. It's on corporations, the exact people who give us jobs in this state, who help people go to work and feed their families and have a home and have a car. On hospitals, the places we all go when we're sick to take care of ourselves and our loved ones. And of course, the middle class, the people that can afford it the least. Our private sector has been decimated. Spending is up, as usual. We lag behind the other states in the country in jobs. And who takes the brunt of it but the middle class? I know, the rich people can afford it. They're going to get taxed more. We hear that every day. And you know what? The more you make, the more taxes you should pay, of course. But what we forget is if you are wealthy enough to pay more taxes, you can also be wealthy enough to live somewhere else. To live in a place where you don't pay those taxes. And if you are savvy, you will do that. But we forget about that. Governor talks about a brighter tomorrow. And it starts with this budget. This budget. Funny, when you define brighter, you hear words like shining and brilliant and dazzling. I don't think of any of those words, and I don't know anybody in this state who thinks of any of those words when they think about the state of the economy in the state of Connecticut. I talked in the beginning about my grandfather. His name was Gus. I know, oddly enough, a Greek man named Gus. This is not the place he came to all those years ago. This is not the land of opportunity any longer. Some might say this is the land of despair. This is the land where we hold a sign up at the border and we say to businesses, get out. We say to citizens, get out. Because not only are we not going to help you stay here, we're certainly not going to help you come in here. Mr. Speaker, that man that came to this country, like many other of people in this chamber and this state, we all have stories like that. That is what makes this country and this state wonderful. If we continue down the road we are going, and we said this 4 years ago, by the way, it baffles my mind that 4 years ago, when we had the biggest tax increase in the state's history that was supposed to solve this problem, we now are back with the second biggest tax increase in the state's history. And as the ranking member of the Appropriations Committee mentioned, this will continue the year after, and the year after, and the year after, because what we're doing is not working. I implore all of you to take a very serious look at what is going on here before you hit that button today. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.